Welcome to another in our series of Kehillat Israel podcasts. This is a recording of Rabbi Amy Bernstein's weekly Friday morning Torah study.
We are in Parshat Teitze this morning. I looked through the Parsha. I look all week through commentary, as you can imagine. It's one of my favorite things, actually, is preparing for this hour with y'all. And I gotta say, I really struggled with this Parsha this morning. You can read the full Parsha on your own to understand why, but I'll just mention that it's dealing with laws. This is one of the largest collections of laws in a Parsha. I think there's 72 laws in Parshat Teitze. And the opening of our Parsha is about the laws and rules about when you go to war and you bring home a woman that you've captured, and the rules around how she's to be treated. And while, you know me, I don't just take the words and react. Like I try to understand it in its context. And while it is a important piece of legislation, given the realities of, as we've talked about, the atrocities of war in the ancient world, it is placing a limit on what you can do, and you must treat her with dignity, and you must, there are things you must do, and then you can't like rape her and keep her and then turn her out. So even though it is a law of compassion and limitation of power, particularly male power, over women, I just couldn't go there today. I just can't. Then there's other discussion about war, and I'm just really struggling. I'm going to be honest. I'm just really struggling. All these understandings of what is humane and just and righteous to do and be about as a people that we want to keep striving to live into. It's just a very hard time given what's happening in Israel. It's just a hard time to understand how to communicate to the people who make decisions that we need to be doing things way differently. So it's personally a hard parsha this morning. And there wasn't a lot of redemptive stuff in a lot of the other material either until I got to the material that we've done before. I'm like, nope, we've done that before. I'm not doing it. I try not to repeat myself too much because these people commit this hour every week to coming here and hopefully hearing something new. But it was a new take that spoke differently to me on something we've talked about before in this parsha that does speak to me a lot, which is Hashevat Aveda. We've talked before about the return of lost objects. I gave a sermon on High Holidays about it. I've talked about it a lot. But Rabbi Aaron Lieb Smokler had a different take, and so did Rabbi Noah Farkas, with whom I had lunch this week. And so I'm going to bring that to us to look at, not divorcing it from the reality of the difficulties that we're holding, or that I should speak for myself, that I'm holding, and much of the Jewish people are holding. And it's not separate from that. I'm not turning away from that. What I'm saying is this piece just kind of felt like one that fit with that and with where we are in our community and our own personal relationship to catastrophe and this season of the year. So I want to look at Rabbi Aaron Lieb Smokler, who brings the Sfat Emet to so many things. She's going to bring this teaching of Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav that I brought to you before from Hartman on Hashevat Aveda, the return of lost objects. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on how Rabbi Natan gets to where he is because we've done that. But if you have questions, of course, feel free to stop me. Hopefully you have forgotten some of it, so it will feel new as we look at this text that felt important to me to bring to you. Okay, so let's look at the actual Torah text first. That is not it. So the Torah text that we're going to look at is Deuteronomy 22. Teitze begins with chapter 21, the laws of war, and then keeps going through laws, and some are about capital punishment, and which we still have today, of course. And then goes into chapter 22 and this pasuk, this law, verse 1. Lo tir et shor achicha o sev nitcha v'halamta mehem hashev tishivim la'achicha. So this one verse of Torah generates all of this commentary in the Talmud and in Sfat Emet and in Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav, because they don't read it simply, because of course that's our job with Torah, is to turn it and find everything in it, and sometimes purposefully misread it in order to teach things that speak to us and to our time. And that's what Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav does. So what does this verse mean? You shall not see the ox or sheep of your brother gone astray. V'hit alamta. So this is, and you shall not remove yourself, which is the Hebrew for ignore. You shall not remove yourself from them. You shall surely return it to your brother. So this is about, we find our kinsmen, meaning an Israelites, ox or sheep, not where it's supposed to be. Ox and sheep are supposed to be in pens or together, right, in the flock with the shepherd. If it's alone and wandering, it's considered stray. And you can't just see that and keep going and eating your bologna sandwich on your way to wherever you're going. That's what this law says. This law says, A, you are implicated once you see that, because you know what it means. It means your kinsman, a citizen of your society has lost something that is precious to them, and you can't ignore it. You are implicated and bound to try to figure out how to return it. Okay. Now there are conditions on that. If your fellow Israelite does not live near you, or you don't know who the owner is, you still can't just keep walking eating your peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You have to try to figure out who this animal belongs to. And if it's too far, like its name tag says, I live in Tel Aviv and you're in Jerusalem, then you have to take the animal home. Or if you don't know who it belongs to, you have to take it home and watch over it. Until when? Ad drosh achicha oto, v'hashevoto lo. You have to watch over it, keep it safe, feed it, water it, take care of it, until your neighbor, your citizen, your co-country person comes to drosh it, and Rabbi Nachman's going to play with this word, till he comes to search for it, is what drosh literally means here. But we know, what do you call, if I give a little teaching on the Torah before we eat on Saturday afternoon, what's that called? A drash. It's the same shoresh. It's the same root, to search. A drash is about helping unpack a piece of Torah. Like you're searching in there for something, and then you're going to help other people see it. So here it literally means till they come searching for it. Then you shall return it to your neighbor. You shall do the same with a person's donkey. You'll do the same with that person's garment. And so shall you do with anything that your fellow Israelite loses and you find. Lo tuchal lehit alem. You are not allowed to be indifferent. You are not allowed to ignore it. You are not allowed literally to self-disappear. Alem, to disappear. So lehit alem is reflexive. You can't disappear yourself from the obligations of this. And then it goes on, if you see your fellow Israelites ass or ox fallen on the road, do not ignore it. Again, lo lehit alem. You must raise it together with that person. So, okay, so that's this law that then we're going to get an expansive drash on by Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav, brought to us by, in this case, in this translation, in this version, Rabbi Aaron Lieb Smokler, who says in a creative reading of Parshat Ki Teitze, Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav, who struggled with his own profound psycho-spiritual challenges, offers us a powerful spiritual reflection on this search for wholeness. The Torah in Ki Teitze instructs us in the mitzvah of Hashevat Avedah, returning a lost object. If you see your fellow Israelites' ox or sheep straying, do not ignore it, but be sure to take it back to its owner. If they do not live near you or you do not know who owns it, take it home with you and keep it until they come looking for it. Then give it back. Do not ignore it. On its surface, this commandment deals simply with a basic ethical precept. We are responsible for others' lost items, and we therefore have a duty to return them the things they have lost. Rabbi Nachman, however, reads the passage as a reflection on the nature of our own spiritual quest and the process of becoming whole. She quotes Likutei Moharan, which is written by Rabbi Nachman. Know that we must travel to the tzaddik to retrace our steps, to retrieve that which we have lost. So Rabbi Nachman is playing with this verse of Torah and what the Talmud does with this verse of Torah when he says, we have to travel to the tzaddik to retrieve what we have lost. Now he's quoting the Talmud. For before we came into the world, we are taught and shown everything that we need to do, to labor at, to achieve in this world. And once we are out in the world, we are made to forget it, as our rabbis teach. And so that's taught in Talmud, that every infant in the womb knows all of Torah and knows their specific job in this world and knows what it is they're supposed to be about and what they're meant to achieve and what they're supposed to do. And the minute we crown, our head comes out of the cervix, we forget. An angel touches us right here under the nose and we forget. And that's why we have this indentation under our nose. It's because the angel touches us here and we forget everything. It is the tragedy and the beauty of being human, is that once we're born, we don't have access to all of that knowledge. Rabbi Nachman teaches this forgetting, so he takes this teaching from the Talmud that we know everything in the womb. The angel touches us here when we're born and we forget it. He says that forgetting is a lost object. Okay, so he's now going to read that interpretation into this verse of Torah. A beautiful move, if you ask me. We forget what the hell the point of the whole business is. And he says that's a lost object. Well, Torah talks to us about a lost object, doesn't it? What does it say? The rabbi calls the person who forgets someone who has lost something. That means every human being. Since every human being forgets everything they knew in the womb, every one of us is in that line of Torah, 22:1, someone who has lost something. Every single human being is someone who has lost something. Okay. Well, what is the law around that? We must retrace our steps, returning to seek our lost object, but the lost object is with the tzaddik. This is because the tzaddik searches after their own lost object until they find it. And once they find it, they return and search for others' lost objects until they find those lost objects. They do not stop until they find the lost objects of the entire world. Therefore, we must come to the wise person to request and to initially recognize our lost object, to return and to receive it from them. Because remember, the person has to take it home with them, remember, and keep it until we come droshing it, till we come looking for it. Well, he's suggesting that person, if every one of us is someone who lost something, who's the one who's watching over it for us until we come looking for it? The tzaddik, meaning teachers, wise teachers. Think Thich Nhat Hanh, think the Dalai Lama, think Sister Teresa, right? Think people who get it, who seem to have found, right, what we all have lost. So we have to go to those people and try to recognize our ass, our donkey, our sweater, the piece of understanding meaning in this world and what happens in this world and what we do to each other in this world. to try to recognize what we've lost so that we can reclaim it. But the tzaddik does not return the lost object to its owner until they examine whether or not the seeker is a liar or a deceiver. This is Rabbi Nachman. This is what the Talmud means when it interprets the verse, until they come looking for it. Remember, we said someone has to keep it until we come looking for it. Adrosh, then give it back. Until you examine your fellow to know that they are not deceitful. Okay, so Rabbi Nachman just flipped the Talmud on its head. The Talmud is saying, how long do you have to keep it? Torah tells us until the person comes looking for it, till they drosh it. Look at what Rabbi Nachman does. He says, the droshing is not done by the person who lost the thing. The droshing is done by the person who's watching over it. The person who's watching over that thing has to look at the claimant and determine, are they being honest? Is it really their sweater? Is it really their sheep? Or do they just want a free sheep? Is sheep singular? Or do they just want a free animal? Right? So the droshing is done, says Rabbi Nachman, not by the person coming searching, but the person who is protecting the lost thing needs to search the claimant and determine their suitability for this claim. All right, so that's not enough for us. We need to go to Smokler, who's going to help unpack why the heck that's a move that Nachman of Bratslav makes. There are two parts to this teaching. According to the Talmudic Midrash, we experienced a primordial communion in the womb to God, to Torah, to our mother, to oneness. But on our way into the world, we were made to forget it. Rabbi Nachman takes this story and interprets it to mean that from the very moment of our birth, we have lost that which makes us whole, complete, and united with the divine. As we physically come into the world through birth, it would seem, we experience a sensation of separation from our mother's womb, from the umbilical cord that connects us to her, from dependent interconnectedness to physical separation, and at least formal independence. That separation shapes our feeling, ultimately incorrect, but no less real, that we are separate beings from other beings and from the divine. Thus, from the very outset, we have a sensation that there is something more, a palimpsest to our lives that prompts within us, in conscious and subconscious ways, a yearning to find that lost aspect of ourselves, to connect and reconnect, to return. In the final paragraph, Rabbi Nachman gestures at the reality that when we come to the tzaddik, we likely do not even know what the lost part of us looks like, its shape, its size, its quality. So the first step in the process with the tzaddik is to figure out, what is this lost part? What am I actually looking for? The tzaddik helps us discern its dimensions. Then when we can recognize it, drosh, when we can see it, when we can recognize it, they return it to us. But first, they have to ascertain that we're being truthful. The Talmud rewrites the situation completely. Drosh here does not refer to the owner claiming the object, but rather to the person watching the object. Darshehu, scrutinize the claimant to determine whether or not they are being deceitful. Only when you've determined the claimant is being truthful should you return the item. Being honest with ourselves. This last part of Rabbi Nachman's teaching articulates the final stage, and in another sense, the first stage of the rest of the process of recovering what we've lost. We have to be honest. The tzaddik will know and will be able to help us to know whether we're really being truthful. Many things might prevent us from being fully honest with ourselves and or the tzaddik. Ultimately, we cannot recover the lost part. We cannot become whole until we are willing and able to see clearly and speak truthfully. And only then is the tzaddik able to return to us that aspect of ourselves we lost so long ago. All right. This is why it touched me a lot, because it's very hard to be honest with ourselves. It is very hard to face brutal realities that we would much rather lahit alem, ignore, and turn away from. And Nachman is saying, we have to be searched to know if we're actually at a state of being honest with ourselves, honest enough to accept the return of what's been missing, a piece of understanding that helps us reconnect to humanity, to ourselves, to our higher ideals, to the divine, to all of those things that we say we want to be close to and be about. Okay, I see hands already. Bert and then Dana.
With all due respect to Rabbi Nachman, I hate this. And, okay. I know this was written, I guess he lived in the 1700s, right? Was that correct? Yeah. Lived in the 1700s, at a time when part of the Jewish idea was there are wise people and you had to depend on the wise people in order to whatever for you. And as a 21st century Jew, I really have a problem thinking that I need to go to some Rebbe somewhere and the Rebbe will give me the truth and the Rebbe will judge whether I can get the truth or not. This rings of a lot of the fundamentalism that I personally have a problem with. Now, if the tzaddik is me, that's different. If the tzaddik is my Rebbe and somebody who I have to go to who will say, I don't think you're honest or whatever, I really do have a 21st century problem with this 17th century idea.
Okay, got it. So what I would say is if we can reconstruct this teaching creatively, I think there's still a lot here. I think there are tzaddikim who have access to understanding that we don't have. And we are terrible at being humble enough to go searching for what they have that we don't, that leads us into defensive positions in wanting to just kind of ignore what's going on rather than actually try to access their wisdom and understanding that is deeper and bigger than our own. And we are terrible at being truthful with ourselves. Terrible, because it's so hard. And I don't know about y'all, but I'm having a very hard time with the news, with everything happening. It's just in our country, in Israel. I'm having a very hard time facing the truth of the horrors of what it is we as human beings are capable of doing to each other and what we as societies are capable of tolerating as we go on our way, getting coolant put in our car because it's 104 and you're doing a funeral in the valley, let's just say. So it just deeply speaks to me that there are places, teachings, teachers, leaders, challengers who do have pieces of the truth that we have lost access to. What's possible, vision, hope, solutions, courage to stand up. And to speak out. Like, I feel like we are asked to turn to the tzaddik, whoever we recognize that tzaddik to be. We can determine who the tzaddik is. It could be God. It could be our higher selves. It could be, like I said before, teachers like Thich Nhat Hanh and all these people who somehow have committed their lives to accessing a level of understanding that I'm not at. Dana.
All right. Well, I can tell Bert and I have been at KI for a long time because that was my question too. It was, I wanted you to speak on behalf of Rabbi Nachman about that tzaddik. But then, as you described everything, I thought, well, what am I missing? I'm missing community, basically. Other than that, I'm doing pretty well. And I've had, in this area, I've had like 4 different clergy, congregations that say, welcome me in a certain way. And I'm realizing, there's a community that I can fill, what's missing. Not exactly sure what's missing. I know literally what is. And, and it's interesting that they reached out to me or communicated because they must have seen that my missing part was honestly missing. They saw some truthfulness in my desire to, and so maybe that's one of the answers, that these tzaddiks, since we're all created in the image of God, maybe we all have a little tzaddik in us, where at some point we can offer something to replace, all the knowledge, little by little, you know. So I just gave you a mini Drush. Anyway,
Thank you.
whatever.
Thank you. And yes, that was the sermon I preached when I preached this on the high holidays. That was the sermon I gave, is that everyone brought their lost, anything they found, they brought it to the temple. And so anyone who was going to the temple for the pilgrimage festival could come claim something they had lost, that the temple was the original lost and found. And that, but Dana, I'm sure you were at the sanctuary. But anyway, just saying. So then whoever comes to claim something, that the temple was the original lost and found, it still is, and we all have things to give each other that we don't even know why I have this. I don't know who it belongs to, but I have it, and our job is to offer it up, and whoever needs it to take it. So anyway, that we still do that in community and in coming to temple. So thank you. Okay, Rachel.
This really spoke to me. So my take was kind of different, and I felt like I was, for me, the lines between the spiritual and like the personal and the work were all very, very blurred. Maybe because I'm always seeking out mentors in whatever. So to me, it was like, instead of Sadiq, I just immediately inserted the word mentor. And in August, I went to a 1.5 day retreat. It was a business retreat, but because it was a retreat, it very much required you to be fully present, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, physically. And I called my husband up the morning, the second morning, crying and saying, you were right. I am a workaholic. And it was a real, forgive the term, come to Jesus moment. But I say that because everyone around, people, clients are always saying that to me. It really was very, it was what am I trying to say? It really was a very powerful, finding of something, discovery. And it required being around a professional mentor, but also a group of women who are, some a little younger, some a little older, some my age, who have more experience and knowledge, even though they all had their own stuff. But to speak to what Dana said, their own particular, spark of Sadiq, so that they showed me, I could see from them, from watching them, from hearing them, from their input and feedback, oh my God, and this powerful eureka moment. And that was why so this actually really, I don't know, something just went bam.
Right. It means we have to show up lidrosh. We have to show up honestly ready to confront the truth and what the tzaddik can return to us. And that is hard for us because we're distracted, because we're on screens, because, we don't let each other finish each other's sentences before we're talking over somebody, for all of because we're busy, right? We're so busy. We're so busy.
Because we're workaholics.
And because we're workaholics and because we live in a culture that rewards us for being busy. If you say, oh my God, I'm so busy, then that's supposed to be a badge of honor rather than owning a mistake. Right. If you're that busy, what's wrong with you? Something's off in your life. How did you let that happen? Right. But we don't think that way. Right. So I hear what you're saying about the retreat is about saying, I'm committing to moving everything else out of the way, lidrosh, to come looking for what's lost. Because I don't even know what it is.
What it is that's got me so off track.
Exactly. Okay. Thank you. Alex?
I have a lot of thoughts, just to go back to what Bert was saying. I think the way I interpret it was just that even though I feel like I'm often told everything I need to know or the truth is within, I think that as humans, we're not particularly skilled at perspective taking. And so perhaps we need the Sadiq or the other people around us, our community, to point out other perspectives. I guess that's how I sort of see it. Even though we might know the truth of what's lost, it's still, if everybody really knows, if the truth is within, then why do so many people are around me or beyond me, call it our world leaders, continue to this pattern, right? These cycles of the negative patterns in which people get stuck in. So this spoke to me the way it did for Rachel. I guess my question goes beyond, which is this supposed to be applicable to Jews or to everybody? And are we supposed to, as Jews, apply this beyond just our community? And then what does that really mean? Going back to what you were saying, Rabbi, which is like, if you just look at what's going on in Israel, if people have lost things, whether it's Jews or non-Jews, what does that mean for us?
Good. Yes, is my answer. So, as Reconstructionists, what we always want to do is reconstruct the teaching to be truthful for our time. And so, as citizens of the world, Kaplan would say, we walk in two civilizations, the American, I would say the world civilization, and the Jewish civilization. And so, of course, this has to apply to everybody, which is why what's happening is so hard, right? Like, if this is how we're supposed to behave, it's really hard to face the decisions that our government is making in this country, as well as the government of Israel and the decisions it's making. And how it's doing that. So I think for me, I interpret it to be universal. There are times where things are particular, but for me, it is a universal about how we're supposed to be with other people. And I forgot your other point, your other question.
I think that kind of speaks to it. I mean, it's just, we are in such a conundrum, obviously, with what's going on. I mean, there's just, if we're supposed to treat people as if they're in the image of God, what is this? I don't need to go on everyone, this complexity of all this, but are we not confronting the truth about something? And I guess I should speak about myself, but just as, whether it's KI, whether it's Jews, all Jews, and what ultimately is that truth? Is it moral clarity? Is it having to get hostages back? That's where I'm at.
Yeah. Yep. I think the reason this spoke to me in all of this is that there's a humility to knowing I don't know. And I don't think we're very good in situations where we're afraid. And I believe that's where the Jews are, vis-a-vis, post October 7th, legitimately so. But when we're afraid, we don't do a very good job of being humble enough to say, I don't know, but I know this ain't it, and something's missing. There have to be people who can help figure out how to do this differently, because something's missing. This is not the whole picture. So that humility, and then the search for the expert, the tzaddik, who can help. We're living under governments. I'm speaking from my own personal opinion. We're living under governments who have no interest in finding that truth that you talked about, Alex, that kind of going really deeply inside and lining up with what we know to be true. That is not where the leadership of the world community is right now. If you ask me, in my opinion, they are self-serving and will do anything lahit alem to ignore what is uncomfortable for them, or what they don't want to see, or what they don't want to acknowledge. And because of that, we are living in some really scary times. Judith?
This has touched me very deeply too, Amy. Thank you so much for bringing this up. I'm thinking of what Dana said, and I think that we can find little bits of tzaddik in very unusual places, not necessarily in one person. Ironically, you talked about the angel touching the spot underneath their noses. I keep a book with a list of angels in my life. And I've learned little bits of the truth about the world and myself from these angels. A teacher here, a student there, a rabbi here. All of these people give us little bits, and then it's up to us to put those little bits together and admit that we are not God. We are not all our ego tells us we have to be. We need help, and it comes from all our angels, and there are many of them. Mm-hmm.
Nice. And of course, angel in Hebrew is messenger.
Yes.
And when I gave this sermon, I told the story of Eliana when she was little, talking about life and how hard, sometimes it all seems. And I don't know why she's talking about this as a little kid. So she says, Mom, it's kind of like a jigsaw puzzle, like putting all the pieces together, except we don't have the picture on the front of the box.
Right.
To help us. And
yeah.
I'm like, that is pretty much it, kid. That's sorry to tell you, but that is pretty much it. It's about trying to put a jigsaw puzzle together, and we don't have the picture on the front of the box. So, yeah, right. Because it's complicated. I mean, and I think that's part of what Rabbi Nachman is talking about is getting a glimpse. Where do we go to get a glimpse of that picture, right? To know where to put the pieces in. And we're all walking around with pieces of each other's puzzle, right? And none of us can see the picture on the front of our own box, much less as a world society, right? We're just, yeah. So, we're muddling through, right, as best we can. So I want to go to Rabbi Noah Farkas as we come to this season and his comment on this. Rabbi Noah Farkas says, reading this Torah portion during Elul with the high holidays fast approaching, the 17th to 18th century Moroccan sage Chaim ben Moshe ibn Attar, in his Torah commentary, the Or HaChaim, riffs on the shared root of Hasheva and Teshuvah, right? Hashevat Avedah, returning lost objects. Hasheva, return. Tshuva, also based on the same root, to return. He explains that these verses are really addressing our obligation to return Jews who are lost. Ibn Attar is aware, however, that heavy-handed attempts to alter someone's path is likely to end in failure and increased enmity and distance. He reads the Torah's instruction, you shall bring it home, right? You shall bring the lost thing home, to mean that the lost Jew should be brought home. You shall bring it, meaning in Hebrew, it and him are the same preposition, or whatever it is. You shall bring him home. Where's home? You shall bring the lost Jew, him, it, to the Beit Midrash, the house of study. There, they may have an encounter with Torah that enables them to undertake their own journey of return. I resonate very deeply, he says, with Ibn Attar's reinterpretation of Hashevat Avedah as the mitzvah of outreach and engagement, but I prefer the last piece of his commentary on these verses. There he explains that since all Jews were betrothed to the Torah at Sinai, and that means anyone who was ever going to be Jewish, by the way, the Torah is our possession. Less engaged Jews are not lost objects. They are subjects who have lost a most valuable possession, their Jewish heritage, wisdom, and communal connection. This is the Torah we hold onto and care for, I would say, in our KI, Beit Midrash, returning it to each Jew who comes to claim it. So I love this idea that our community, our tradition holds for us something that is our possession. Torah, this tradition, all of the scholars, all of the insights, all of the brilliant responses to it, all of it is our possession, our inheritance. And often we've lost it. And it's It's our job, Hashevat Avedah, to return anyone who's lost, to return the tradition to them. So to share words of Torah with each other, to share insights with each other, to share aha moments, come to Jesus moments, and those insights with each other. Yes, Lee. And so that's also part of Hashevat Avedah. And at this season of Elul, Hasheva, return, is also about Tshuva. That we have to return to the tradition. We have to return to the practices of cheshbon hanefesh, of an accounting, an honest accounting of where we're at, an honest accounting of our responsibility right now, and what that would really demand of us if we were honest and facing the hard stuff. What would that mean for us this Elul? What does it mean for us as we approach Rosh Hashanah? And for me, I am going to take into this high holiday season seriously this idea between Hasheva and Teshuvah. It is a different way for me to understand Teshuvah this year, about Hasheva, about return, and about the ways that so many of us feel lost, the ways that so many of us feel like we want to come home. There's many days I'm close to tears saying, I want to go home. I just want to go home. And I can't. And so that means home now has to mean something else. What? Because that yearning, yes, it's for the physical place I lost, but it's not just that, obviously. Like I can't go back there. So what am I actually yearning and longing for when I'm aware that I feel lost and want to go home? And that is what we will be holding each other with and in as we move into being together. I ask you, if there's any way possible, to please come to High Holidays in person. I know it's easier to be on the couch. I know it's more comfortable. Believe me, I'm someone who struggles with the logistics of parking more than you know. I get nervous before even the thought of any trip that I'm going to miss my plane, right? I'm going to be at the wrong gate. So I get it. Logistics are crazy making. I get it. But if you can find a way to come in person, we really need to be together this High Holidays. Bubby, I know you'll be with your people. I know, Shelley, you'll be with your people. So I know we won't all be at the same place, but I'm going to ask us, if we can, to be with people, to be physically with our community at this really, really difficult juncture in this difficult moment. Because I believe, like Torah, like Rabbi Nachman, like the Talmud, I really believe our tradition's deep wisdom is that we need each other. And we don't even know what we need from each other. That's why we show up at the original Lost and Found, to see what's there that we've lost and don't even know. But we'll recognize it when we see it. So I wish you a season of Hasheva, of return, of Teshuvah, of repentance, and of making ourselves and our community, and hopefully someday our crazy world, more home. Shabbat Shalom.
You've been listening to Rabbi Amy Bernstein's Friday morning Torah study from Kehillat Israel in Pacific Palisades, California. For more information, go to our website, www.ourki.org.